Hello and welcome. My name is Caroline Smith, and I'm reading The Indians of the Oaks by Melicent Lee. This is Chapter 4, called A Bath in the Desert. Nighttime came upon the desert. Payan and I lay together by our fire. We had not brought a rabbit-skin blanket with us. We are not old women, Payan said. But the desert was cold at night. Payan lay on one side of the fire and I on the other. Payan, I whispered, my back is cold. Turn your back to the fire, he said. Then Payan, I said, my front is cold. Then turn your front to the fire, he said. Then Payan, I said, my back is cold. Do not complain, said Payan. Warm yourself as well as you know how, Kwitok. You will soon go to sleep. Strangely enough, I did go to sleep before long. When I awoke, Payan was nowhere to be seen. I had finally found him in a little valley. He carried a couple of desert quail in his belt. Take your bath while I cook the quail, he said. Take a bath? Where? In the sand? On the rock? I thought he was only joking. How could I take it? But I never finished that question. Payan was looking at me as if he were ashamed of me. I'd take a bath if I had to walk to the Salton Sea. The Salton Sea was a lake in the desert a few miles away. I walked away just as if I knew where to go, and then I felt something damp under my foot. It was Payan's wet footprint. I followed his marks easily through the sand. I was backtracking him. His footprints led away from the pile of rocks. I saw his marks clearly on the stone. But how could he find water up there? I scrambled up the pile. I climbed over big rocks, and then I stopped in fear. The tracks led straight up the smooth side of a cliff. I stared and stared at them. And then I saw tiny cracks in the rock. I started to climb up like a monkey. I reached the top. My heart had almost stopped beating. I was so frightened. I dared not look back. On top of the rock, there was a clear, deep pool of rainwater. I remember now that Payan had told me about a little lake in the rock where the mountain sheep came to drink. I plunged into the little pool of clear water and splashed happily. When I climbed out of the pool, I saw a still figure standing at the edge of the pool. It was Payan. He lifted my wet body in his arms and carried me down the side of the cliff. When we reached the bottom, he said, You are as brave as an Indian. But even though you're brave, I did not want you to risk your life slipping with wet feet. When your toes are like fingers, you can go anywhere. But you came down in your wet feet, I said. Payan laughed. Even an Indian wouldn't do that, he said. I made the wet marks with my hand on the rock, and I wet my feet when I reached the sand, so that you could track me. I had my water jar with me. Good old Payan. He led me to the little campfire. The quail were toasted brown. Payan and I ate them heartily. I wonder what Apachuk is eating for her breakfast, I said. Maybe she's eating a big fat lizard, laughed Payan. She likes lizards. I like quail better, I cried, licking my fingers. But how did I know? I'd never eaten a desert lizard. That day, Payan and I collected mesquite wood for baby cradles. Most of the young women had told us to be sure to get some. Many fine-leaved mesquite trees grew in the desert. But they all have cradles for their babies already, I objected. Foolish boy, Payan said. A baby grows, doesn't it? And the baby cradle stays the same. They will be putting their babies into larger cradles soon. Why do the women strap their babies so tightly? I asked. So that they will not flop this way and that way, Payan answered, waving a quail feather in his hand. What good is a hunter with a weak and twisted back, like an old cedar tree blown about by the wind? What good is a woman with a weak back? What good is she on the trail? What good is she at grinding acorns? What good is she at carrying a basket on her head? What good is an Indian with a weak and twisted back? We found mesquite branches that were strong and even, and we bent them into hairpin shape after warming them over a fire until they were soft. We cut short sticks to go between so that the cradles would look like little ladders when we finished, except for the curve at the top. How are we going to tie these sticks to the side? I asked. Come with me, answered Payan. He led me to a group of little desert cedars. He stripped off the bark with his fingers. It was red and rough. Then he soaked it a while in the cooking olla. Now it is soft and fine for the cradle, he said, and he tied the straight little sticks into place and wound the fiber around him. Only an Indian could have made such a neat job of it. Are you going to fix the cedar pillows too? I asked. In the village, the cradles I had seen had thin pillows of twisted bark that fitted exactly into the cradles. Payan smiled. The women know more about those things than I do, he said. I'll take the bark home to them and let them fix the pillows. They usually make their own cradles, but I thought I'd make a few myself. He stuffed the bark, mesquite wood, and the cradles into the carrying net. Get all the bark you can, he said. All the women will be wanting it. I gathered armfuls of the bark. I had never slept in sweet-smelling bark like that. My blanket had been made in a factory. I wish I'd been born a little Indian, I thought sadly. I should have lain in sweet bark and my back would have been straighter. Pion seemed to guess what I was thinking. He always knew my thoughts. He said to me, "Your back is not perfectly straight now, but when you pull yourself up the mountain trail in the fall, it will be straighter. And your eyes are not far-seeing yet," he said. "But when you look off the mountain top day by day, they will grow as strong as our eyes. And your legs are not very strong yet," he said. "But when you've walked to the mountain top, your legs will be strong." I looked at Pion's wonderful body, and I wished that I might grow to be like him. I decided whatever I did with my life, I would have muscles that ran and played with one another. "Cue, Pion," said Pion. "We will hunt for the yucca that has the long, juicy stalk, not the yucca whose leaves we make into string. I'll fill my water jar first." He ran back to the cave where he had stored his things, drew out a little water jar with a very small mouth. Then he climbed the rocks to the mountain sheep pool and came down again without spilling a drop. "There's no water where we're going," he said. He put the jar in the net, which he first lined with sagebrush in order to stop the holes. We walked single file among the cactus plants. Pion wore his sandals, but I had none. Pretty soon my feet felt so hot and sore it seemed I could go no further. I had stepped on the thorns of an ugly snake-like cactus, too. Pion walked right along without noticing me. I sat down on a rock and began picking out the cactus thorns. Pion looked around, and then he began to laugh. "There's nothing to laugh at," I said, a little crossly. He laughed again. "You did not know that the sand would be hot? You did not know that cactus spines would be sharp? You did not think? Quee-talk, quee-talk." And then he drew out a little pair of fiber sandals from away down deep in his net. "Here," he said, handing them over to me. "My father, the chief, spent several days making these for you, but until you asked, I did not give. Think of everything you need before you go into the desert." I took the sandals gratefully and put them on my feet. I promised myself that I would think of everything before my next trip with Pion. If I had been alone and unprepared, who knows if I could have gone at all. The next time I would lie awake the whole night before, if necessary, and ask myself if I had everything. I knew now that he had made me suffer purposefully. Even my own father could not have been wiser. Soon we came upon a little group of barrel cactus plants of all sizes. Some were taller than I. They looked like big cucumbers set on end, armed with sharp spines. We walked among them in our sandals, each with his bow and arrow in his hands. The sun was hot, and I was very thirsty. "I want water," I said to Pion. "Do you want water, or do you want something to drink?" he asked. "I want something to drink," I answered. "I'm so thirsty I cannot go on. We'll save the water for later. We'll get something else." He stopped, and I stopped too. I looked all about. I could see nothing but the desert and the prickly barrel cactus plants. Pion walked up to one of the plants, picked up a big stone which was lying near it, and smashed off the top of the barrel. He took a stick and pounded the stuff inside until it was soft and mushy. "Cue," he called. "Make a cup of your hands and drink." I did as he said, and I tasted a warmish drink which I did not like. I made a face. "I want water," I said crossly. Pion looked at me a long time. Then he pointed to something in the bushes near my side. It was a heap of bones. "That man wanted water too," he said quietly, "but he didn't know that this cactus would have saved his life." I cut my hands again and took another drink. "It's not so bad," I said. "It's better than nothing," said Pion. "Cue," and we kept on walking across the sand.